Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Hare Krishna Project podcast. This is episode number 79. I say this every week, but I cannot believe we've made it to our 79th episode. 2.5 years this podcast has been running. And it's a podcast where devotees from all over the world now get to share their stories and get to share their experiences in Krishna consciousness. Thank you to those of you who are tuning in on YouTube or on Facebook. I shall make some further announcements later on about how you can watch future podcasts from the Hare Krishna project. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome our guest this week, Pranesvari Devi Dasi. Dhanavat pranams.
Jai Nitai Gauda, Hari Bol. I'm very happy to be here with you. Very humbled to have been invited.
It's wonderful to have you with us. I'm delighted you've accepted the invitation to be on the podcast. We've certainly known of each other for a few years through the internet. when you with things like Facebook and Zoom, you feel like you know somebody very well, even though you've never physically met them, you know? It's quite amazing. So Pranesvari Didi, let's start off with a nice, easy question. Please tell us a bit about you and where you're from.
My name, Pranesvari Devi Dasi, was given by my Srila Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj. I was born in Venezuela, in South America, and I immigrated 10 years ago to the United States. I became a citizen here, and I've been following my Gurudev since 1984. I met the devotees in 1981. It was a different mission with a different master, with a different guide. I took initiation in that group, but we split later. Before that, in 1984 and 1985, this master took us to India. And there I met Srila Guru Maharaj and Srila Govinda Maharaj. I was captivated. My heart just melted to see how sweet, how humble, how true these personalities are. So I was immediately drawn and attracted, and I split with the group. I waited many years, and Srila Govinda Maharaj, he started world tours. In 2002, he went to Venezuela. I have 2 kids. Mahamantra was 4 years old at the time. And Navakishori, my daughter, she was 6 years old. So we went there. We were living in the countryside. We went to the capital city where he arrived in Caracas. And I offered my kids to him. So he gave them initiation. And he decided that he was going to give me initiation, but both on the same day, first and second initiation. He is the light of my life. He is the love of my life. I cannot think of a moment that my life is not related to his. Your Gurudev is in your heart. He has a Vyasasana in your heart. And that beauty and that respect that you have when you're in front of him, you have to keep it when you're not in front of him, because that's what people feel. They say, you have this wonderful attitude, this wonderful perspective of life. How do you have it? Oh, my Gurudev is in my heart. So he allows you, he gives you the opportunity to see everything related to Krishna, everything related to a spiritual life. And that's a blessing.
Wow.
So,
I find that quite amazing. So you met the devotees in 1981 originally in Venezuela.
yes.
You were serving in a different mission for a while, and you went to India in 1984. And in Vrindavan, you met
To Navadip. We went to
Navadvip.
Navadip. Yes. And we went to the Mula Math. We went to our Sri Chaitanya Saraswat mission in Navadip, in Kolarganj. That's where I met both of them. And I was captivated instantly.
Wow. let's just tell me briefly initially about meeting Srila Maharaj. What was that like?
The feeling of reverence that you have when you approach him, when you get close to him, is something that it's on the air. It's not something that you can try to explain in words. Everyone was so touched by his presence, by his words, extremely sweet. He used to speak with a very low voice, so everyone was attentive.
Mm.
Everyone was very close, trying to grasp a little bit of what he was saying. There is a wonderful, wonderful devotee who started recording all his talks. And from those recordings, bless his heart, we have book is Srila Bhakti Sundar Goswami Maharaj. He initiated these recordings. And some of them, of course, they were noisy and there were birds and there was music from the street. But still, the message is there. And it was taken to produce wonderful books
Wow.
from Srila Guru Maharaj and also Srila Govinda Maharaj.
Mm. And I think in 1984 it was that period of time where a lot of Western devotees were going to Srila Maharaj for advice and guidance and shelter. So was it quite a busy experience at the mat? Was a lot of young Westerners there trying to get some, philosophical
Yes,
advice?
yes, because it was that transition when Srila X.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada parted, so everyone was confused and horrid. We didn't have any experience. They didn't have an experience of what to do when you go to parts from the world. So everyone was lost. But Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was very clear and gave them advice. He said, whenever you have a doubt, go to Srila Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj. He is the person that I consider my guru. And that's recorded, is his voice saying that. So he trusted in Srila Guru Maharaj that much to take care of his disciples.
Mm.
And many of them, they just surrendered to the feet of Srila Guru Maharaj and stayed, continue preaching.
Mm. I know that on a number of occasions, Srila Prabhupada referred to Srila Maharaj as his Shiksha Guru.
Yes, it's an
Yeah.
instructing guru. Yes.
That's all kind of evident in his writings and his letters. So you also met Srila Govinda Maharaj in 1984 as well.
Yes.
Um,
And he was not a sannyasi yet. He was a grihasta. He was dressed in white. But you could see his personality, his mood was completely surrendered, completely dedicated to Srila Guru Maharaj. For him, Srila Guru Maharaj was the sun,
mm,
shining through all aspects of the math and blessing him because he had him for over 40 years.
mm,
He had his direct association. When Srila Govinda Maharaj came to the math, he was only 17 years old. He was a kid. But everything is absolutely perfect. There is no coincidence, we have been told. And Srila Guru Maharaj at that time, in that year, in 1947, he said he is going to be my successor. 40 years later, he announced that he was going to retire and that he was going to give everything in the hands of Srila Govinda Maharaj. The first year, 1984, I met them. In 1985, I went again. And that year, Srila Govinda Maharaj took sannyas. It was something beautiful and special. And
mm,
that very moment, when the day he was taking sannyas, he captivated my heart in such a way that I said, here is my guru. Because I was in that disrupted situation when I was really hurt and I understood I need guidance. And here is my guidance here in Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. The day of his sannyas was very, very beautiful and special. All the Westerners, we were following him wherever he was going. When he went to get shaved, we were there looking. When they were preparing the fire sacrifice behind the mat, there was a particular moment. It was Puri Maharaj, very, very old. I think at that moment he was 85 years old, something like that. And he was the Brahmana doing the fire sacrifice. So he had the Shastras, he had the book, and he was holding the book and he was reading. And then he was just like a little bit confused because the letters were not really clear. And then with a beautiful smile, he said, "Oh," and he turned the book around. That was so sweet. That captivated my heart. I mean, we were all agreeing on our faces for the whole day. That was so extremely sweet. And then when we were in the Nat Mandir, just in front of the deities, we were sitting, chanting our japas, and Srila Govinda Maharaj, it was before the ceremony, Srila Govinda Maharaj was pacing up and down, chanting his japas. Then suddenly, outside, there was a problem with a faucet, and the water started peeling. So Srila Govinda Maharaj, he took his japas, he hung them on a nail on the wall in the Nat Mandir, and he went outside. The position where I was in front of the door, and I was able to see where he was going, and he started fixing the faucet. That exact moment was when I said, "This is my Gurudev. This is the best example of being humble," because it was his special day, it was a ceremony, formal moment, and he was doing seva.
Leading by example, setting an example for others to follow.
Exactly.
Out of interest, I guess I've never really kind of asked this question of any devotee. Why did Srila Govinda Maharaj not take sannyas until 1985? Why didn't he take sannyas before? He'd been in the mission for 40 years. So why was it not until that point that it happened?
I cannot really tell you the reason why, but there is no confusion in trying to understand that he was a sannyas at heart. He had family, and Srila Guru Maharaj accepted him, received him when he was a kid, 17 years old. Then he had a family, and then he continued serving Srila Guru Maharaj as a grihasta. And then when the time was up, he took sannyas. So there's no a specific reason that I know, but I just take it as completely natural, a process. He was a kid, then he became Virihasta, and then he took sannyas.
And everything is Krishna's arrangement, isn't it? Often we have these kind of questions and we want to know the answer, but sometimes we just don't know the answer and we don't need to know the answer. We just kind of surrender and have faith in the Lord's will. So 1985, Srila Govinda Maharaj took sannyas. You then returned to South America.
I did return to South America.
And did you then, I think you then mentioned something about 1992. I'm just kind of trying to go through things chronologically.
Oh, yes, because I went back to Venezuela, and I waited until the first world tour, not 1992, 2002. And that was the first world tour, and he started with Australia, and he melted the hearts of the devotees there.
Wow.
He went all over the world, 22 times. When he went to Venezuela, it was absolutely wonderful. My kids took initiation. I had initiation from him, and I felt just absolutely blessed. And after that, I was living in a different city, not in the capital city. I was living in a place called Maracaibo, and it's just like a state with not much law, and kidnapping is common. because they steal cars and they take them to the neighboring country where they sell them. And I was one day using a pickup truck. My brother was at home and I said, can I use your car? I need to go and pick up some boxes. I was like, yeah, sure. He gave me the keys. I went. And I went to a toy store where they knew me because they knew my kids. And they gave me some boxes. And when I was in the car, I entered the car. When I was going to close the door, I couldn't close it because there was a guy holding it. And I thought it was one of the guys of the toy store. He had a gun on his hand, and I thought it was a toy for my boy that he was trying to sell. And I said, no, 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 thank you. I don't buy those toys for the kids. No, no, that's not the kind of toy that I buy. And he said, move. That moment I realized this is not from the shop. This is one of these guys that for the first time in my life I had this experience. So I had to move. The guy sat, and immediately two guys I didn't see because I was totally unaware of the situation. Two guys came with us. We were four on the front seat. They were nervous. They were young men. They didn't know, apparently they didn't know the area, so they were going around. I started crying, and I realized that my crying made them more nervous. And finally they find a way out, and they started heading towards the road where they could go to Colombia. They were going very fast. Before we took that road, we were still in the city. And they told me, don't make any motions. Don't do anything with your arm. I couldn't move. I was next to the driver and the guy next to me. But there was a lady in the car in front of us, and she looked at me on the rear mirror with my eyes. I said, I'm in danger. Help, help. She told the police. These guys went very fast. And then suddenly, in the middle of the road, they took a right turn and they entered a path that was very narrow. And it had fences on the sides. And I said, okay, they are going to kill me because I saw their faces and I know the names because they were talking. And I lowered my face and I started praying to Gurudev, my Lord, I'm ready to go. This is not what I expected it was going to be this way, but I'm ready. The only worry that I have, my Lord, is who's going to raise my kids in Krishna consciousness. And I was praying like that. And then I saw clearly Gurudev's face with a smile. And I couldn't digest, I couldn't understand how, if I was in such a great distress, he had a smile in his face. I couldn't understand it. And I kept on praying, oh my Lord, I don't understand, I don't understand. And then I don't know how many minutes I was praying with my head low and with my eyes closed, actually. I lifted my face, and what I saw in front of us was a herd of cows coming our way. There was no place for the cows and the truck to be in the same place. So this guy turned around, hit the fences on both sides, and went back. And in that moment, I said, please, let me get off to the driver. And he stopped the truck, got off, and let me out. And then they disappeared. I offered obeisances on the floor. I said, my Lord, your smile is because you had already sent the cows to save me.
Wow,
And
it's
I didn't
amazing.
realize. And I didn't realize that.
You
So
must have been
that's a
absolutely
miracle.
terrified. Just
Totally.
what did they want? They wanted to steal the van, steal the truck. They wanted money.
It's still the truck in 40 minutes, 30 minutes maybe. They are in a different country where they can sell the truck, and that's it. But when
Wow.
they took this right turn and they diverted from the main road, what was the intention? I don't know. But the thing that came to me is, okay, they are going to kill me because I saw them, because I know the names. That is something that is very common in Venezuela. But I never experienced it before. But the smile of my Gurudev was because of that. Have faith. Look up. I already sent you help.
Wow. And of course, a herd of cows. What what better?
Alone without a cowherd boy.
Mm,
There was no one there, just cows coming my way.
amazing. It's just
Incredible.
amazing.
Incredible.
And what happened to the hijackers in the end? Did you ever hear about what happened to them after you got out?
Nothing. Well, I ran to the main road,
Mm.
and when I saw a truck coming, I waved. The guy stopped, and I explained to him, and he said, "Okay, come, sit here with me." I said, "No, not with you, not with you. I will go in the back." I was so scared. I said, "No, not near anyone." And he gave me a ride, and he stopped at the police station. And when I got off, the police there, he told me, "You are the one with the red truck." And I said, "Yes." "How do you know?" "Well, there was a lady that called us." So it was incredible. It was that
Wow.
few seconds with my eyes, and the lady perfectly understood. "Help me. I'm in
Mm.
danger. Help me." Incredible. Incredible.
Wow. It's a very powerful story, the power of prayer, the power of having faith in your Guru Maharaj, Guru Dev. It's wonderful. Just wonderful. I mean, obviously Venezuela, I don't know a lot about Venezuela, but when I hear about it on the news, it's not good news. It's kind of negative news about, a corrupt government, or there's dodgy things going on. There's crime, and various things. It was just out of interest. Was that one of the main reasons that you left Venezuela to move to the USA? The kind of the economy and the violence and the crime.
No, actually, it was one more blessing. I got married, and his sister was born here.
Mm,
So she asked us 25 or more years ago. We filled out forms, and nothing happened. We never received any notification from the National Visa Center.
mm,
So I just totally forgot about it. My kids at the time when they took initiation, 4 and
mm,
6, and I totally forgot about it. Then when I was in Navadip in 2012, I checked mail, and I received a message from my brother-in-law. And he said, "Listen, we received a mail from the National Visa Center saying that they are going to close the case because they haven't heard from us." I said, "What? What case?" I totally forgot about it.
mm.
It was almost 17, 18 years after that. So we restarted everything. And when I returned from Navadip, I went to the embassy in Caracas for the interview, and they approved everything. And I asked and said, "What happened? Why so long?" I said, "Well, I had to tell you the truth. It was stamped and sealed, but left in a drawer. And somebody else opened the drawer so many years after and found the dossier." And I said, "Okay, simply it is
That's
like that."
amazing. That's amazing. Let's talk a bit more about Srila Govinda Maharaj, because you
My
said that he
pleasure.
he traveled around the world 22 times, which is
Yes.
which is phenomenal. And he attracted, I mean, I don't know the number, but hundreds of disciples. And he continued to carry the baton. He continued to fly the flag for Srila Maharaj after 1987, right through to 2010.
Yes, 2010.
So tw- for
That
tw-
was that was a very dark day for us, all of us.
yeah, and certainly, you know, uh, not to all of them, but most of the devotees in Britain that I know that are in the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math are disciples of Srila Govinda Maharaj, because at that point in the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, similar to other mats, there was just one initiating guru. So if you join the mat between, I don't know, 1987 and 2010, over a 23-year period, there's only one initiating guru, so it keeps things nice and simple. It's actually the way I prefer it. Actually, it's much more simple that way. So a lot of the devotees in Britain that are part of the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math that I know are disciples of Srila Govinda Maharaj. Some of the older devotees are disciples of Srila Maharaj, and some of the younger ones, younger than me, have maybe got a different guru, like maybe Janardhan Maharaj or Madhusudan Maharaj.
Oh, Ashura Maharaj.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And there's a few others, and I've forgotten their names. There's a Russian sannyasi who he has.
Yeah, Avadut Maharaj.
Yeah, and there's
Avadut Maharaj.
another Russian sannyasi who has at least one disciple in London. Forgotten his name. He's in the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. He's a Russian sannyasi. I forgot. It's terrible. I've
Well,
forgotten his name.
there is a wonderful sannyasi called Bhakti Ajrai Dandi Maharaj. He is extremely sweet. I don't know if you're referring to him.
Maybe. I'm not sure. So do you know how many disciples Srila Govinda Maharaj actually had or has?
Not really, not a number.
But it's
I've
a lot.
I never heard about a number. I never read about a number. But yes, disciples all over the world, really. Ukraine and Russia and India, by default, of course, India. But the United States and all South America and the UK and Spain, Europe. He was, he is. He was there, but he is a wonderful personality. And he attracted everyone. When you met him, maybe you had expectations, and he would just fulfill your expectations just by being humble. He had this special shloka that he was always repeating. Because he always said, you have to be humble, you have to be tolerant, and you have to render honor to others. You're not more than anyone. So you had to be respectful. You had to offer honor to everyone. And that is so extremely basic. That is the root of a spiritual life. Because if you're not humble and you're puffed up, you are not going to get the gist of a spiritual life because you're blinded by your ego.
And that is the kind of one of the basic teachings of Krishna consciousness, that we're the servant of the servant of the servant. We have to be incredibly humble, recognize that in the grand scheme of things in all eternity, everything is under Krishna's control. We're not really in these positions of power or these positions of authority. They're all just temporary labels. Actually, we're just eternal spiritual beings, and our egos get in the way. And the Maya is that actually we think we're in control, and we're not in control. We're not in control at all. But that's one of the things that comes up a lot when I hear people talk about Srila Govinda Maharaj. Was he was just so incredibly humble and tolerant, and he had a real kind of servant heart.
Yes.
I was maybe 4 podcasts ago, I recorded a podcast with a devotee in South Africa called I think it was Keshava Krishna Prabhu, who was one of those devotees who went to the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math in the early 1980s after Jaitirtha fell. And he went there because he was a bit lost, because he was looking for some spiritual shelter. And we didn't, in the podcast, we didn't talk about that very much. We then carried on to talk about something else. But one thing he mentioned was that one of the things he loved about the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math was he remembers Srila Govinda Maharaj serving the prasadam. And we were talking about in the podcast, what can ISKCON learn from other mats? And he said, we need to learn how they do it in the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math because they're so humble and all the sannyasis are serving others. And he has that one memory from 40 years ago of Srila Govinda Maharaj, in this temple in Navadweep, just serving everyone prasadam on the floor. That's the one thing he took away.
Exactly. And that particular quality of him, to be so humble and so dedicated, was the trait in his personality that captivated my heart. When he left, all the pomp and the ceremony, and it was a very special day. He was all dressed up, ready for the ceremony, and he went out to fix a faucet. As simple as that. Because
Wow.
the temple was full of devotees and they needed water.
Mm.
We couldn't waste it. So sweet, so wonderful.
Mm. Mm.
Particularly humble and tolerant.
Mm.
He tolerated so much from us because we came with our baggage and with our egos, and he tolerated. He just taught by example.
So Govinda Maharaj's 22 world tours, was that literally one a year? No, because he didn't start until 2002. So that was,
Several during the years, not
wow.
only one, not only one. Because when he would cover some countries, then the other countries would say, "Hey, me too, me too."
Mm.
So he was invited to different places
I mean, I
all
just
over.
admire that kind of stamina. I just admire that. I'm just going to quickly do some maths on my calculator. So, 22 divided by, this should be simple, really. So about almost 3 tours a year.
8 years, eight,
Yeah,
yeah,
about 3 tours
yeah,
a year every year
hmm,
for 8 years.
yes, yes.
Um, you know who that reminds me of is Janardhan Maharaj, who I think Janardhan Maharaj is, his body is 77 years old. I think he's 77, 78,
Yes,
and
yes.
he appears very youthful, and he's just always traveling. And I mean, I'm I'm under 40 still, and I get tired. And then when I look at some of these kind of older sannyasis and think, wow, what are they doing in their 70s and 80s? Who am I to complain about being tired at 39 years old? You know?
He is very energetic.
Mm,
Last God Purnima, he was there with Ashram Maharaj from
mm.
Mexico, and I was blessed to be there. And Janada Maharaj, full of energy, he was always walking very fast,
Yeah,
very beautiful mood
yeah,
that he
yeah.
has. Yeah.
So you've been part of the mission for a long time, Didi, for what, 40 years?
About, I don't know,
40 years?
84.
That's quite amazing. Well, actually, 84 was the year that I appeared. I was
Oh,
born.
wow.
So quite a long time ago. So you've been serving in the mission for 40 years.
I've been trying to serve my guru for 40 years,
Trying,
trying
trying
to,
to,
not serving, trying to.
you've been trying to, in your words, you've been trying to serve your guru for 40 years. And certainly when I kind of came across you, or we kind of met online about 3 years ago, I got the impression then you were very busy in Krishna consciousness. You were very active in Krishna consciousness. You were running different programs and events online, and I don't want to embarrass you, but I say it again. When we first met online, I thought you were a sannyasini. I thought that you were. I actually thought you were wearing saffron, and I was like, "Wow, there's a lady guru." You know, what I mean, guru means different things to different people, but I thought you were a sannyasini because you just had that, and I still perceive you as someone who has that kind of those strong leadership qualities. And this is what this is my kind of perception of Vaishnavi or Vaishnav should behave, and you always come across as very busy in a positive way.
And that's a blessing. That's a blessing because when you're engaged doing seva, that fulfills your whole life because that keeps you connected,
Mm,
constantly connected with your Gurudev. When there is no seva, you are easily in the lap of Maya. And you mentioned Maya a moment ago.
mm.
Maya is not bad. Maya is a devotee. She is doing her seva perfectly. So we had to pray to her. Dear Maya, please allow me to do my seva too. Don't get me distracted. Allow me to render even the slightest kind of seva for my Gurudev, for my mission. we don't fight against Maya because she's a winner. Forget it. We cannot conquer her. She will conquer us. So we had to be humble and say, please allow me to render seva. Seva, in my case, is life. It gives me life. When I'm doing seva, it's just like the brain gets just like structured to organize. I have this and this and this. Okay, I need this and this and that. I love that. I love to be engaged in seva. It's so sweet, so special.
I'm certainly finding that as I approach 40 years old, that I don't want to waste my time, watching meaningless TV, engaging in issues and topical affairs that, for example, I still have, political views and social views, but ultimately kind of, governments come and go, political issues come and go. I mean, they're important for a period of time, but let's focus on the bigger picture. Krishna consciousness has been in the West for 60 years, 55, 60 years. There is so much more to be done. There is so much more to be done. And I don't want to waste my time just kind of messing around. I want to make an impact and try and do something meaningful. Let's talk a bit about, I'd love to talk a bit about some of your seva, some of the things that you do. Let's talk a bit about I love the name, the back to basics. It's kind of a show that you co-host with Madhusudan Maharaj. So do you want to tell us a bit about that and how it works?
Yes. Back to basics, BBBC, started back in Navadip many years ago. Those were not recorded, so there's not much information, but they were many years, led always by Srila Madhusudan Maharaj. Now, at that time, he was Mahananda. And when there was this opportunity with Zoom, he accepted to restart BBBC after so many years that it was held in Navadip. And it's a wonderful opportunity to learn about those special details that are basic in the spiritual life. We have originally a group, back to basics group, which is private, but then there was the understanding of why only private? There are more and more people that they need a spiritual life.
There's also a public group.
The public group is wide and open to everyone. So more and more people are becoming aware of the importance of a spiritual life. So the talks are wonderful. They are not programmed like this is the title for this one. Is spontaneous. It comes from a question. It comes from excerpt that someone shares or reads, and there it expands. That is a beautiful opportunity to get nourishing Krishna Katha, because Srila Bhakti Madhusudan Maharaj, he was at the feet of Srila Guru Maharaj. He is his disciple, and he served under the direction of Srila Guru Maharaj. He served Srila Govinda Maharaj as well for over 40 years. So the nourishing talks are just shelter for everyone. They are so beautiful, so beautiful. He always has in his lips Srila Guru Maharaj and Srila Govinda Maharaj. A few days ago, it was there was a festival at West London Math, the anniversary, and the same day it was the Vyasa Puja of Srila Madhusudan Maharaj. And he is extremely humble, and he feels very uncomfortable when he is praised. He endures because he has disciples, and that was during the day. He had a meeting with the Russian devotees, and then at night at BBBC, For him, it was already Sunday. It was not his Vyasa Puja anymore, but for us, it was. So we continued celebrating. And he was just like, let's talk back to back the basics. Don't talk about me. Let's talk about my Srila Gurudev and my Srila Guru Maharaj. And that is a quality. That is a very special quality. When you are a genuine spiritual seeker, you can detect immediately who is a genuine spiritual master. And he has all the qualities. He has all the blessings from Srila Govinda Maharaj because he was there serving all the time. So he is one of those beautiful acharyas that we have. Srila Janardhan Maharaj, Srila Ajna Maharaj, Srila Vadur Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Tilak Niriha Maharaj, now in India. Everyone has this potency in their hearts to spread Krishna consciousness. That's the most important thing.
So with back to basics, it's like a weekly Zoom meeting.
We have twice on Wednesdays and Saturdays.
And devotees from all over the world can tune in.
Yes.
And ask kind of philosophical questions.
Yes.
Exactly. To Madhusudana Maharaj about obviously things related to Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
Wonderful. I have seen some of them online. I didn't know though, because you told me in an email. There's been over 350 episodes.
Yes. Last Saturday on his Vyasa Puja was 354.
Wow. And I'm sure during the COVID pandemic, it was an opportunity to produce more, or they became very important because
they became more noticeable because of the pandemic. Yes. There was a joke from one of the sannyasis. He said, oh, well, I don't know her name, but I think her name is Sumeshwari. Because I was broadcasting and I was trying to connect because it's so important. If you're alone in a place where you don't have a temple, when you don't have devotees around you to associate with, then Zoom and all social media gives you the opportunity to engage and to connect with other devotees. So I think that is my service. Connect people with those who are already engaged doing seva. It's so vital. Death comes any moment. So we better be engaged in seva so that what comes to our mind in that moment is something that will save us. Otherwise, we'll go around this cycle just like a ball rolling. We don't know where. So we really have to prepare for the transition when we pass away. And the only way to be a little bit aware is if we are engaged all the time. There is a devotee who was in Navadip, and he serves for so many years. And he went to the temple in Nekachakra. He offered obeisances, and he passed away there while offering obeisances. So that impacted me. I wish that when I pass away, I would be offering obeisances too. That's a goal. We are preparing for that moment, for that transition.
It's the one thing in life that we're certain of, isn't it? Physical death.
That's it.
I mean, people often joke and say the two things you can't avoid are death and taxes. But yeah, you can actually avoid taxes. But death, physical death, you definitely cannot avoid. Nobody has yet got around it. There are in kind of people today want to live longer. They trying to extend their lifespan by doing exercises and having face surgery and surgical enhancements or whatever. But ultimately, nothing has been discovered yet that can aid you to live forever physically. So there's just no point even trying. And actually, you're absolutely right. Let's prepare for that one thing that we're certain of, physical death, and be prepared for what happens next after that.
Exactly. It
And Krishna,
depends on what is in your head. It
yeah.
depends on what is in your heart at that very moment. You will get your next destination.
Mm,
And let's try to make it simple. Let's try to make it spiritual.
mm. Can we talk a little bit, just briefly, about some of those other programs and initiatives that have come from back to basics? You mentioned
Mhm.
in some other things like for children and for teenagers. Do you want to share some of those with us?
Yes, yes. From BBBC, sprouted Bhakti Yoga for Kids, which is a program where I invite storytellers from all over the world. And the devotees are wonderful because they give the story, they can read it or they can tell the story, but then at the end, out from their hearts, they preach and they
Mm,
comment on the story or they give something extra. And that extra it has so much value because the preaching of a devotee is always nourishing, always beautiful. And then I started thinking, okay, but kids, what about teenagers? So I opened Bhakti Yoga for Teens. And there we started with a wonderful lady that is in San Jose in California. And she runs a beautiful temple there. Her name is Kumkum Didi. She is very special, very beautiful. But then she got so engaged in so many other projects. The person who came after her is a wonderful young lady. Her name is Brinda Devi Dasi, and she serves also in California at the temple in Soquel. She has a particular quality. He doesn't need to have the question in advance. He reads the question on the screen and out from her heart comes the answer. And the answer is always related to something that she has read about Srila Gurudev, written by Srila Gurudev, or something that she
mm, mm,
directly heard from him. It's incredible. It's amazing. It doesn't matter what kind of question is in front of her. Always her answer is going to be with the words of Srila Govinda Maharaj, with the words of Srila Guru Maharaj. And then Bhakti Yoga for all, because for those who are not kids, for those who are not teens, but for all, not for old, OLD, we have this program with our dear Paramananda Prabhu. He is a Russian devotee, really a scholar. If I say scholar, he will say, no, Didi, don't say that. That's not true. But he is. And he is right now reading Revealed Truth, a book of Srila Govinda Maharaj.
mm.
That is not only the reading, but also the explanation and the additional comments that come from the reading that make it so nourishing and so valuable.
Mm. This is what I love hearing you talk, and I love hearing you talk about the savor that and the different projects. And this is what I was saying about how you're very busy in Krishna consciousness. These are wonderful projects where people all over the world are engaging with them and connecting with them, and it's wonderful. And do you literally have devotees from different parts of the world taking part in all three?
Exactly, exactly.
Wow.
Last week in Bhakti Yoga for Kids, we had a wonderful devotee. She's in Spain, and I call her our official scholar in Bhakti Yoga for Kids. He started the class. She was going to tell us a pastime of the Krishna book, but she started a summary of the ceremony that was held during the previous three programs.
Mm.
And that was amazing. She told the main details of all the stories just to get us acquainted with the whole picture. That's super sweet. And this Saturday that is coming is a beautiful lady that is in Singapore. So it's people from all over the place. Everyone has something to give. Everyone has the ability to share what is in their hearts. And my seva is to offer the opportunity to those beautiful devotees to connect, to share that what they have in their hearts. That's my real seva.
Wow.
Give the opportunity to them to express the beauty that they have in their hearts.
Mm. Mm. Didi, it's really inspiring, and it's been really wonderful to hear about what you're doing. You're in the United States, in Florida, I think you
In
mentioned.
Florida? Yes,
What's
South Florida.
South Florida? Well, I've never been to the United States, I have to admit. The furthest west I've ever been in my life is a town, a city called Galway in the Republic of Ireland, which is actually near Limerick. And
Okay.
there's a wonderful new Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math temple in Limerick.
Yes.
I visited around 2 years ago, and it's run by some disciples of Madhusudan Maharaj.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful place. That was a great tangent. I got on talking about the temple, but I've never been to the United States. I mean, what's the devotee community like there where you are?
Well, here in Florida,
Mm,
I run a program here at home. I invite on Saturdays for a program where I distribute prasad. And what I do is after Bhakti Yoga for Kids, which is at noon, I have a cooking class. And the purpose of the cooking class on Saturdays in the afternoon is because after that, I have the program. So there's wonderful prasad to share. And the people who came for the class, for the cooking class,
mm,
they are connected to the spiritual part.
mm,
So it's so very special. It's so nourishing. We don't have a temple here. There are no devotees from my mission here. ISKCON is here, is present here. They have a beautiful temple. Further south, in a place called Coconut Grove, is a beautiful temple with beautiful deities. But from our mission, we don't have a place here. I am on the east side, on the
mm,
side of the Atlantic. Above us is New York and New Jersey. They are also doing weekly programs. The main preaching centers are in California. San Jose, run by Kumkum Didi, as I mentioned before, and the Sokel Ashram under the care of Srila Janardhan Maharaj. There are some communities that have sprouted here and there.
mm.
They are growing. But here in Florida, we don't have more devotees. Actually, here where I live, because 6 hours from here at the north, still Florida, there is a beautiful community of ISKCON devotees. It's called Alachua. It's just like a
Mm,
city of
mm,
devotees. And we have a couple of families from our mission who are living there, living with the devotees in that ISKCON community.
mm.
But here in my area, no, we don't have more devotees.
Well, it's great that you're flying the flag for Srila Govinda Maharaj and Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and those wonderful cookery classes on a Saturday. It sounds wonderful. And do you invite just kind of members of the public to come along? Any
Yes, it's
people that you
open.
people that
It's
you
open.
meet, people that you meet?
Yes, yes, because I advertise on social media and they call because of the cooking class. That's their main interest. But then when they realize that what they were cooking, what they were learning how to cook, has a very special connotation
Mm,
that is connected completely with Krishna consciousness.
mm,
That is just like, what? I never thought that cooking could be
mm.
spiritual. So
And
that's a beautiful way to learn about spiritual life.
and is it particularly advertised as a kind of vegetarian cooking class, or
Yes, vegetarian cooking class, but sometimes there are people who are vegan, so they ask me for vegan, so I separate.
mm,
What I do is one day we work with a group that I have for vegans, and another Saturday I work with a group that I have for vegetarians.
I
The
remember many. Sorry, go ahead. What were you going to
No, no,
say?
no, I was going to say that it's just that vegans are very strict,
Mm,
so I don't want them to feel uncomfortable
mm, mm,
that I might be using utensils or ingredients that might have touched milk or milk byproducts. So I separate the classes.
mm.
One day vegetarian, another day
Vegan.
vegan. Hmm.
I remember many years ago, one lady devotee was running a cooking class, and she was inviting non-devotees. It was a student group along, and she said one of the biggest challenges was trying to get them not to taste it, not during the cooking process, because I remember being at school or with my grandmother in the kitchen as a kid, and I'll just taste a bit of the cake, before or I just, let me just try it, or and I
Or
remember,
and you maybe you lick the spoon.
yeah, it's cooking on the stove, or just taste it. What's the temperature like, and that was one of the biggest challenges. This devotee told me is that you have to teach and tell people not to taste it, not to think about tasting it, you know, because you have to just be like a kind of observant role. And I thought that was quite comical, because in our Western kind of liberal culture, we're always eating and tasting things.
That's the very first thing that I have to tell them. But it's not an imposition. It cannot be harsh because they are newcomers. They don't have the slightest clue of anything.
Mm,
So if you are harsh, you will scare them. They
mm,
will never have just like an attraction to learn a little bit more.
mm,
So I obviously that's the first thing I say. But what I do is that I do my offering first and I have everything prepped for them to cook what I already offered.
well, that's
So
clever.
I prepare a small offering, that is my offering.
Mm,
But what we do together as a class, it's the same ingredients,
mm,
but uh, just like I cannot offer that one. I cannot offer the one that we prepare together in the class, but I offer first the the boga to Srila Gurudev.
that's amazing. Um, it's been wonderful to chat to you this week. Believe it or not, we've been talking for well over an hour. I knew we would,
Yeah.
and I'm sure we could chat for several more hours, because I feel very inspired by you and the work that you're doing, and the savor that you're doing, and you're a translator by profession, aren't you? That's what you do. It's kind of
Yes, yes, and I help in several programs. It started during the pandemic, doing this simultaneous translation because Zoom has this tool that is very useful,
mm,
very useful. So
wow,
the talks in English, I translate into Spanish.
wow. Do you speak any other languages other than English and Spanish?
I don't have full command. I studied Italian and I studied French,
Wow.
but I never used them.
Yeah.
And now I'm learning Bengali, and Bengali is so difficult. So I'm really struggling
Mm,
to try to grab the pronunciation, and I want to learn the Bengali writing.
mm,
I want to
mm.
learn those characters. So I'm starting with uh, kinder books.
Wow. Wow. Well, I envy you. I'd love to speak lots of languages. I learnt German at school, but I got an A in my German, actually. I was very impressed, but that was over 20 years ago. But I've never really been to Germany to use it, so maybe one day I'll use it. Um, so Didi, I'm going to just say goodbye to everybody watching at home. And then you and I can have a bit of a brief debrief. Let me just close that window. After that, it's been wonderful to have you as our 79th guest on the Hare Krishna Project podcast. It's been great to hear your story, and it's been great to hear your glorification of Srila Govinda Maharaj. Because he has a big following, not just here in the UK where I'm based, but all over the world. You know, and to I mean, if you just look at the amount of time he's still here spiritually, but was here physically, and the service to Srila Sridhar Maharaj and the Acharyas is just wonderful. It's unbelievable. You know, to serve in a mission that long is so inspiring, and it's certainly an example that I hope that we could all kind of follow or try and follow in our very kind of, you know, in the ways that we do. So a big thank you to Pranesvari Devi Dasi for being our guest on this week's podcast. It's been wonderful to hear her story. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do put a positive comment. Please do like it. And please do hit that all-important subscribe button here on the Hare Krishna Project YouTube channel so you can hear about future podcasts and other events that are coming up. And also, if you're watching this on Facebook, please do also like, love, or care for it. Put a constructive comment, and also subscribe or follow or like the Hare Krishna Project Facebook page, so you'll get updated about future podcasts. We are fast approaching our 100th episode. I know that's 21 episodes away, but I've got a number of guests lined up over the next couple of weeks, which means that we should hit our 100th episode in around 5 weeks time, which is quite amazing. And I do that working full time as well. So a big thank you to Pranesvari Didi for being our guest this week, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you. Hare Krishna.